Jungkook breaks down in tears as HYBE issues stern statement. Jin unable to hold back emotion. Is this the beginning of BTS's most painful chapter? The silence in the room was deafening. Then came the tears. Jungkook, the youngest member of BTS, broke down in front of cameras, his voice trembling, his hands clenched, his composure shattered. Moments later, Jin, usually the pillar of calm, was seen wiping his eyes, unable to contain the emotional weight of what had just transpired. What could possibly drive two of the most resilient figures in global music to such visible distress? And why did HYBE's statement feel more like a verdict than a clarification? The tension began with a single, chilling announcement from HYBE that sent shockwaves through the fandom. Delivered with an icy tone and devoid of warmth, the statement was brief, but its implications were seismic. It was not merely a corporate update, it was a line drawn in the sand. The language used was unusually assertive, bordering on confrontational, and it left no room for interpretation. The message was clear. Something had shifted, and not in a direction anyone had anticipated. Jungkook's reaction was immediate and visceral. Sources close to the situation described him as visibly shaken, with one insider noting that he had not cried like this in public since debut. The emotional collapse was not theatrical, it was raw, unfiltered, and deeply human. For an artist who has consistently maintained poise under pressure, this moment marked a rupture. What had HYBE said that pierced so deeply? Speculation swirled rapidly. Was this about internal restructuring? A hidden dispute? A decision that would alter BTS's trajectory permanently? The statement itself avoided specifics, but its tone suggested finality. It was not a negotiation. It was not a discussion. It was a declaration. And in that declaration, something was lost. Perhaps trust, perhaps unity, perhaps the very foundation that BTS had built over a decade. Jin's response added another layer of gravity. Known for his stoicism and ability to comfort others, Jin was seen with tears streaming down his face shortly after the statement was read aloud. Observers noted that he did not speak, did not attempt to explain. He simply cried. The image of Jin, silent and broken, was enough to send ARMY into a frenzy of concern. Was this the sign of an internal fracture? Had something irreparable occurred behind closed doors? The timing of the statement was also suspect. Coming just days after rumors of internal disagreements and strategic shifts within HYBE, many fans began to question whether this was the culmination of long-simmering tensions. Was Jungkook being isolated? Was Jin mourning a decision he could not prevent? And why did HYBE choose such a cold, unyielding tone to deliver news that clearly had emotional consequences? The lack of follow-up from HYBE only deepened the mystery. After the initial statement, the company went silent.
No clarifications, no reassurances.
No attempts to soften the blow. This strategic silence was interpreted by many as a calculated move, either to let the storm pass or to avoid further scrutiny. But in the absence of answers, speculation became the dominant narrative. Among the most disturbing theories was the possibility of a major shift in BTS's structure. Could this be the beginning of solo contracts? A redefinition of group dynamics? Or worse, a quiet dissolution masked as creative evolution? Fans pointed to Jungkook's recent solo activities and Jin's military service as potential indicators of a broader strategy to decentralize BTS. But if that were the case, why the tears? Why the heartbreak? Jungkook's emotional breakdown was not the reaction of someone embracing change. It was the reaction of someone blindsided, someone hurt, someone perhaps betrayed. His tears spoke volumes of confusion, of fear, of loss. And Jin's silent grief only reinforced the sense that something sacred had been compromised. The ARMY community responded with a mix of outrage and sorrow. Social media erupted with demands for transparency, with hashtags calling for explanations and justice. But HYBE remained unmoved. Their silence became a wall, impenetrable and unyielding. And behind that wall, The future of BTS seemed to hang in the balance. What makes this moment so devastating is not just the emotional toll on the members, but the implications for the millions who have built their lives around BTS's message of hope and unity. If even BTS is vulnerable to corporate coldness and strategic detachment, what does that say about the state of the industry? What does that say about the promises made to fans? The emotional fallout is likely to be long-lasting. Jungkook's tears will not be forgotten. Jin's silent sorrow will linger. And HYBE's statement, delivered with surgical precision and devoid of empathy, will be dissected for months to come. Was this a necessary move? Or was it a miscalculation that could cost the company its most valuable asset, trust? As the dust settles, one question remains unanswered. What exactly did HYBE say that broke Jungkook? Until that question is answered, the speculation will continue, the emotions will intensify, and the wounds will deepen. This is not just a moment, it is a reckoning. And for BTS, for ARMY, and for the industry at large, it may be the beginning of a chapter no one was prepared to read. The silence from HYBE is not just strategic, it is symbolic. It represents a shift from collaboration to control, from empathy to efficiency. And in that shift, something essential may have been lost. Jungkook's tears are not just personal, they are political. They are a protest against a system that prioritizes statements over souls, strategy over sincerity. Jin's tears, too, are a warning. A signal that even the strongest can break when the foundation begins to crumble. And as fans search for answers, one truth becomes increasingly clear. This is not just about a statement. It is about a rupture. A moment when the illusion of unity was shattered and the reality of vulnerability was laid bare. Will HYBE respond? Will they clarify? Or will they continue to let silence speak louder than words? Whatever the answer, the damage has been done. And for Jungkook, for Jin, and for every fan who watched their idols cry, this moment will remain etched in memory, a painful reminder that even legends bleed. This is not the end of BTS, but it may be the end of something else, something quieter, something deeper. The end of innocence, the end of certainty, and perhaps the beginning of a new era, born not of celebration, but of confrontation. And as the world watches, one question echoes louder than the rest. What did HYBE say that made Jungkook cry? Until that question is answered, the tears will continue to fall. The emotional aftermath continues to ripple across the fandom. Jungkook has not made any public appearance since the incident, and Jin's silence remains unbroken. The absence of both figures from scheduled engagements has only intensified speculation. Fans are left dissecting every frame, every word,